All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're cracking the code on one of the most common and honestly one of the most confusing words you'll ever see in an assignment. And I promise, by the end of this, you'll know exactly what to do next time you see it. So, have you ever had this moment you're staring at a blank page, you've got your assignment, and you feel totally lost because of this one simple instruction? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. It sounds so straightforward, but it can feel incredibly vague. Let's figure out what it really means. And that one word is, you guessed it, discuss. But don't worry, we're going to break down exactly what your professors are looking for. By the end of this, you'll have a clear, step-by-step blueprint for tackling any discuss question with total confidence. Okay, so let's get the official definition out of the way. When a prompt asks you to discuss, it means way more than just talking about a topic. Look at these key action words here. You have to examine, present, explain, and, this one's the big one, evaluate. It's all about a structured, balanced investigation. And this is a super important distinction to make. A discussion is not an invitation to just list off your personal feelings. Think of it more like a challenge to be a detective. You've got to gather different perspectives, look at the evidence, and build a logical, well-supported case. So, how do you actually do that? Well, I've got you covered. We've got a simple, 6-step blueprint. Seriously, think of this as your go-to recipe for an awesome discussion essay, every single time. Here it is, our roadmap to success. First, you explain the topic. Then you present different viewpoints. After that, you're going to analyze and compare them, and always support your points with evidence. Finally, you evaluate the arguments and wrap it all up with a logical conclusion. Let's break these down a little more. So steps 1 and 2, this is all about setting the stage. You start by getting everyone on the same page. Explain the topic clearly, define any jargon or tricky terms, and then, this is absolutely key, show that the issue isn't just one-sided. You have to introduce multiple viewpoints right from the get-go. Now we get to the heart of the essay, building your case. This is where you go from just listing ideas to actually analyzing them. How are they similar? How are they different? And you can't just make claims out of thin air. You have to back up every single point with solid evidence. We're talking facts, examples, or data from your research. And finally, it's time to deliver the verdict. In step 5, you evaluate. This is where you really show off your critical thinking skills by weighing the pros and cons of each argument. Then, in step 6, you bring it all home. You summarize your main points and form a solid, reasoned conclusion based on all the evidence you've just laid out. Sometimes the best way to figure out what to do is to learn what not to do. So let's flip this on its head for a second and look at some of the most common traps that people fall into when they see that word, discuss. Okay, check this out. You want to examine different viewpoints, so avoid just describing one side. You need to analyze and explain, not just list a bunch of facts without connecting them. You absolutely must support your points with evidence, not just your personal opinions. And finally, you're aiming for a well-reasoned conclusion, not just a simple yes or no. All right, enough theory. How does this blueprint actually look when you use it? Let's apply it to a typical assignment prompt and see how it all comes together. Here's our prompt. This is a classic one, and I bet some of you have even seen this before. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of online learning. Right away, that tells you need to look at both sides of the coin. And look how perfectly our blueprint fits. You'd start with an introduction where you define online learning. Then you'd have a paragraph for the advantages, the pros, like flexibility and cost. Then another paragraph for the disadvantages, the cons, like tech issues. And for every single point, you'd bring in evidence. You'd wrap it all up with a balanced conclusion that summarizes everything. See? Simple, structured, and super effective. Phew, we've covered a lot of ground. But if you only remember one thing from all of this, please make it this next part. Let's boil everything down to one simple, powerful takeaway. Here it is in plain English. When you see discuss, just think, talk about it in detail, show the different sides, explain those sides with examples, and then connect the dots. It's really all about building a complete picture for your reader. So, the single most important point is this. Think of yourself as an explorer. A discussion essay is your journey to map out a topic. And that map has to be balanced, it has to show all sides of the terrain, and it has to be based on evidence, which are the facts and findings you gather along the way. And there you have it. You now have the blueprint. You're ready to confidently tackle any discuss assignment that comes your way. So the only real question left is, what are you going to discuss first?
Thanks for tuning in.